Welcome to Behind the Ballot. In the next half hour, you're going to get to know a little more about your mayoral candidates for the town of Huntsville. That includes incumbent Mayor Scott Aitchison and Peggy Peterson. I sat down with the both of them to talk about the issues that concern us here at the town of Huntsville. Let's go to Scott Aitchison. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate you coming on, and you know, we don't have too much time, but there's enough time here to talk about three important issues. And I wanted to start with, district duplication of services and how you would like to address it. So, I mean, for example, one of the things that you have talked about before is the downloading of roads to the municipalities, which you are in favor of, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, talk about that a little bit, and just the district and in terms of duplicating services and what you would want to do.
Well, thanks, number one, for having me here, Mel. I appreciate it. It's always good to have the opportunity to talk about all the issues. But this particular issue, for me, you have to back up a little bit. I firmly believe that our two-level local government system is a pretty good system. It works very well. I think the lower tier municipalities work well with the upper tier and vice versa. What frustrates me about it is where there is an overlap, where we both do the same kind of stuff. And for all the years that I've been around local government, we've had a lot of discussions about reforming local government, and it always seems to focus around the planning process. It's a two-tier system, and it's a bit cumbersome, and it takes time by design in some ways, because that's the way we want to make sure the public has lots of opportunity to be engaged in that process. And so what I started to do was a bit of analysis on the actual roads budget, because it seems to me that, I look back through the history pages and I see that, there wasn't initially a district roads department, but it was a great debate in the mid-70s and the early days of the district. And the arguments against creating a district road network was, why would we have three different road departments? There's the provincial one, now we'd have a district one, then we have the local one. And so I thought that was interesting enough for me to take a little deeper look at it. And part of the reason why I did this is because, of course, we've been having this challenge, for decades really, but it's really come to the fore in terms of the towns versus the townships. Things like OPP policing costs and the argument that the townships pay what they feel is, an inordinate share of the cost of the services delivered by the district, which tend to be delivered more in the urban areas. And so I can go on at length about the importance of pooling our resources to support areas that need more support. But what I argued to the townships councillors who were arguing that we should pay a fee for service kind of thing for OPP costs, what I said is, you will never convince a municipal politician in one of the towns, and you'll never certainly convince me that we should pay for the services as we use them. Because if we do that, there's no need for the district. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It is there to pool resources and spread those resources out into the areas that need them. And it works well. That's how Ontario works. That's how this country works. What I did say, though, was that we should take a serious look at those services where there's this overlap, and the district does it and we do it. And I thought roads was a really good example of where we should take a look, because the townships pay a huge amount of money, and more of that money gets spent on sort of urban streets. Lake Muskoka Lakes, pays 38% of the cost of maintaining the main street of Huntsville. And I sort of said, well, we should take a closer look at that. There's no question that it would cost the towns a little bit more money.
Right.
But I think I've done enough of an analysis of the whole thing to warrant further analysis by people who are professionals at this, engineers and accountants. And so that's just one example of an area where I think, we need to, if one level of government does these set of things and the other level does these set of things, then I think it's a far more efficient system. And that's the only reason I started that debate. And I'll continue that debate. I mean, I just think that there are ways to make local government more efficient, more effective, and it's the closest to people. We have the opportunity to make some good changes, and so we just got to do it. There'll be lots of debate about whether it makes sense or not. There's no question that it would cost some municipalities a little bit more than others. I think Bracebridge would actually suffer the most if we were to download all the district roads. So you might hear from my good friend Graydon that he totally disagrees with it. I get that. But I think it's important for us to have that conversation, and I think that's a better conversation than the demand that, where the services are delivered, those people should pay the most. That's a recipe for disaster. That won't work.
Okay, so let's move on then to affordable housing. Another service that you have been an advocate for, particularly in Huntsville, and something that is needed all over Muskoka as well. But talk about, should you become mayor, reelected into the seat, what are you going to be doing to further that initiative to deal with affordable housing and food insecurity, really?
Great question, and it is a very important issue. It's important to me, and it has been for the last 4 years. And so this is another good example, actually, where the district government is actually responsible for affordable housing initiatives and rent geared to income housing, all that kind of stuff. They own all the publicly owned housing in Muskoka, and I think that's great. And I certainly have no ambition for the town of Huntsville to create any bureaucracy related to that. All I was trying to do for the last 4 years is stimulate the development and partnerships with the private sector to build more attainable housing. It's probably a better word. The economy is booming in Huntsville and all of Muskoka, and as a result of that, as a result of that, and the fact that there's a huge number of people in our communities that work in service type industries where it's seasonal, maybe not as consistent, and it's tougher to get a mortgage. They can't afford to buy a place. The demands here from people exiting the GTA is driving up the house prices, and rents are higher as a result of that as well. So we actually need more supply overall into the system. More at-market rental will actually help bring down the price of rentals a little bit as well. So one of the things we've done as a council, and we've worked well as a council, we've been in lockstep, unanimous votes all the way along, because the council gets that this isn't just a social imperative, some moral obligation to care for our fellow man. It's also about economic development. I talk to business owners every single day, and all they tell me is, I just can't get people to work here. I can't even bring them in because they can't find a place to live. They can't afford to buy a place here. We need more housing. And so one of the things we've done is we did an RFP where we made land available over in Sabrina Park Drive. That shovels are about to go in the ground now to get that finally going. It's been a long time coming, but we're getting there. We have other parcels of land that we're prepared to donate. We've donated land to Habitat for Humanity in the past. We're looking at any and all possibilities. Most recently, we did a tour in Toronto of Regent Park, and we talked to folks that have been involved in that process down there, and we talked to other folks that have actually created a community land trust. And so we looked, does that make sense? And I don't know if that's the right tool to use or not, but we're going to push every lever, pull every lever, push every button, do everything at our power to make sure that we waive fees to get the private sector building more housing that's not just multi-million-dollar cottages on the lake, but actually serving the needs of everyday people that live here and work here. So I've always said we don't have huge amounts of cash to write checks, but we charge a lot of fees, and if we can waive those fees and partner and make things easier for developers to build those units, that's the best way to get it done. And so we're going to continue to do that. We'll work with the district. We'll work with all our partners around Muskoka as well. We're also looking at expanding our transit network. There are a number of people that work in Huntsville but live just north of that Muskoka line, because guess what? Taxes are a lot less in Perry Township than they are in Huntsville. So maybe there's a way we can connect the folks that live there who may not have a car to their job here in Huntsville with our transit system. So we're working on an expansion of the transit system. And that is another one of the reasons why we're doing it, is because we need to connect people to those jobs. Those employers need those people, but they can't afford to live here. And so we need to, as I say, pull every lever, push every button, do everything we can at our disposal to make housing more accessible for people. It's an absolute foundation for how to live a full and self-actualized life. You don't have a roof over your head, you can't begin to do anything else. And so it matters a great deal to me. We're working hard on it, and nothing will ever get done fast enough as far as I'm concerned, but we continue to work away at it.
Okay, so we've got 4 minutes left. And in these
I
last
tried
few
to be
minutes,
quick.
no,
sorry.
this is perfect timing. And of course, we could talk hours about each topic, but I wanted to use these last few moments for you to tell me why you think, and tell our viewers why you think you are the best option compared to your counterpart, Peggy Peterson, who is running up against you. Why are you the best option to be the mayor for the next 4?
I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. I believe that I'm the best candidate to continue on for the next 4 years because of my experience, my proven ability to create partnerships, to have a collegial working relationship around that table, to balance the importance of a thriving economic environment with protecting that for which people came here in the first place, which was, our natural surroundings, our water. There's a balance to be had there, and I think that all the work I've done in planning over the years, we've written and rewritten official plans that get tougher and tougher and protect the water. I was the one that actually proposed the idea of making sure that all waterfront development is subject to site plan control. You got to strike that right balance, and I think I've done that. We've had a great 4 years where I believe strongly we needed to pay down our debt, build up our reserves, get back to basics, spend a lot more money on roads. When I took office, we were spending $1.6 million a year on roads capital. Today, we're spending $3.5. We want to continue to do that increase. People are noticing a difference in those basic services. And I think, really when it comes down to it, I have the backs of the people of Huntsville. I'll work with all our partners. Mayor Smith of Bracebridge and myself have worked really, really well together to fight to save our hospital, and we're winning that battle. And I think I've got the skills and the talents that will ensure that we do win that battle and that we keep our hospital and we keep Huntsville thriving and growing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today on this. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Behind the Ballot. Earlier in the program, we got to hear from mayoral candidate Scott Aitchison. Now we hear from Peggy Peterson. Thank you so much, Peggy, for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate you coming out for this particular program. We don't have too much time allotted to this, so I wanted to talk about some key points and your thoughts on that should you become mayor and what you want to do. So the first thing I want to get into is talking about district duplication of services. That's been something that's been ongoing. Certain services that the district wants to pass on to the municipality, and particularly road maintenance and things like that. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, should you become mayor, how would you handle that duplication of services with the district and the town of Huntsville?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity because this is how communities work, and community media is so critically important. And I do believe that this is a really important election for all of Muskoka, but particularly Huntsville. Mm-hmm. We have lived with a second two-tier of government for about 40 years. Mm-hmm. I remember at the time there was a lot of discussion about introducing another level of government and who was going to do what. And it sort of struggled back and forth with responsibilities. What I hear when I'm talking to people, because that's really what I'm trying to do, is really understand how the general population feels about this and the issues that they see. And there certainly are areas that we need to address as far as who's looking after what. Mm-hmm. There's conversations pro keeping roads and maintenance at the district, but there's also, certainly aspects of taking it back as a Huntsville responsibility. I am concerned about taking it back as a Huntsville responsibility because in my experience just in the town of Huntsville, that we're not always been the best about making sure our sidewalks are safe and making sure our storm drainage is, and the things that we do have responsibility for are being done. Okay. So it's nice to have a governing body, and obviously, in the District of Muskoka, all 6 municipalities have essentially the same struggle. And sometimes there's an important part of this is that we have a collective voice at the district, as opposed to having 6 voices. But you know what the key is? we have to work together. We have to really want to work together with each other. We want to share what's working, what's not working, and there is a facility at the district level that can allow that conversation. I've been going to a lot of candidates meetings and speaking with a lot of people, and you know, it's interesting how it all goes back to that we are one watershed. We're the Algonquin, you know, the Muskoka West Algonquin watershed, and all of our waters actually feed into each municipality as they head to Georgian Bay. So we have to really work together, and I'm not sure what the answer is yet, but I definitely think we have to have a serious conversation. And I think a decision one way or another how we go forward has to be really looked at seriously over the next year to 18 months.
So do you have any a particular idea of where you think you'd want to go? Like, should you become mayor, is this, are you saying that maybe you want to keep road maintenance at the district level, or what is it? That's one example of the services duplication, but is that something that you're going to be looking towards? Because you said you had concerns about taking that responsibility back.
I do. So I can't say one way or another. I think we're still in a serious information gathering process. But what I hear now is that has come to a real crescendo amongst the people. So it has to be addressed. And there has to be conversations go on. And we have to really give some thought about how we want to move forward on that, because it relates to so many other issues in the Muskoka. So, you know, I just think, I don't have any answers, but I have some very important questions to ask. So I'm looking forward to being part of the conversation from the inside. I have tried to work with various levels of government and spent quite a bit of time at the district and certainly at the town of Huntsville observing and witnessing. So mostly I have questions right now, but I really feel some motivation from the community that we have to have a bigger, deeper conversation.
Okay, so let's move on now to the topic of affordable housing, attainable housing, food insecurity, things like that. It is an issue right across Muskoka, as you know, and really everywhere. But should you become mayor, what is it that you're going to be doing to kind of make sure that we have affordable housing here in the town of Huntsville? It is a problem here.
It is a problem here, and it's been a problem here for quite some time. And I and many others have been speaking from the sidelines on this issue and waiting for some real movement at the town. And many years ago, not really that long ago, Fran Coleman was a real advocate for affordable housing here, and we've sort of lost her voice. And so I know how serious affordable housing is in Huntsville. I also know the level of homelessness in Huntsville. The lack of affordable housing for staffing, you know, business owners, they can hire staff, but there is no place for them to stay. So all of those things are all very connected. And, you know, that's one thing, again, where as the District of Muskoka, we all have the same needs. It's really across Ontario, but it's really important that we work together. And I really hope, it's my hope, that if I'm elected by the people to be the next mayor of Huntsville, that we prioritize affordable housing, because it's key. You know, my whole message, and has been for many years, is that our economy is our ecology. And because I'm a permaculture educator, creating community and making sure that everybody feels a part of this town is so important. And I can honestly say that, unfortunately, over the last however many years, the homeless, the marginalized, they've been somewhat marginalized. We are appealing to a demographic of richer tourists, and we did that with the G8, and yes, we've created a place where the people will come, but it's been at the expense, I think, of the regular townspeople, regular people living in poverty, seniors housing, all of those things. I think we've paid a cost in the path we've chosen. And so my concept of being a mayor is to bring everybody to the table in a respectful conversation so that everybody's voice is heard and everybody feels welcome to be at the table. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most critical job as a mayor, is to create a warm atmosphere at the town hall, make people feel welcome, and make everybody feel like they're a part. And certainly, you know, the homelessness, provincial mandated a real clear study across the province about homelessness. And some local dedicated people did that survey. Heather Berg was part of that survey. So we have actual statistics. We know that in Huntsville now there are 74 homeless men on record. So you can double that, possibly triple that, because it is a center of the population that don't like to come forward to fill out surveys or do that sort of thing. So, you know, that in itself is a serious situation. And all of those people are part of this community, and I really hope that I can bring everybody to the table so that everybody feels that they have a voice.
But is there a particular way that you want to prioritize affordable housing? Yes, you want to bring everyone to the table, which is great. But is there? I mean, you've been on the sidelines, as you said, seeing this from the outside. So should you have that in? What is it that you would like to see in terms of actual programs or housing being built that the town of Huntsville can do? I know it's a district program, but what is it that you want to see specifically? Do you have any ideas of what you'd like?
Well, just in our local paper this week, there was an excellent, I guess it's an advertising from the town of Huntsville about, you know, accessible. They're looking for people who want to come and build accessible homes and affordable housing. I think we need to do an inventory of what properties the town has control over now, or what potential opportunities, what lands do we, like, let's see, what land do we have? We know it has to be closer to the center, because most people don't have, you know, a lot of people don't have vehicles. So I think we need to do an inventory of the space that's available for forward housing, and then we need to really focus on getting some built. We also need senior housing. We are desperately in need of a really good, solid senior center senior housing that's not, you know, the upper echelon of affordability, that's accessible. That's once again close to, you know, our wonderful local hospital and our downtown, so that people have access to that. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but you know, I feel very positive about the fact that you know, people are talking to me and being very supportive of this whole process. And like I say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm certainly looking up some of the more serious questions.
So we've got about 4 minutes left, which is a good amount of time to talk about why the people of Huntsville should vote for you as our next mayor over your counterpart running against you.
Well, you know, I just put forth that, you know, historically the town of Huntsville has been this. A lot of people are not happy with what's happened and how things have gone and the debt we're under and the decisions that have been made. I am very frustrated at the town pushing through an official plan at the moment. I don't think it's appropriate for a town council to be pushing forth an official plan during an election. I know it's not affected by the Election Modernization Act, but I think it should be. I think they've done a lot of research, they have a great document, but going ahead with an official legal meeting, public meeting last week was a bit disturbing. I appreciate, and I have asked the town to set that on the shelf right now, and that should be left to the next council. What I see over and over and over is amendments to the official plan being nodded through. I've been very few times I've been at a meeting where I've seen them not approved. And that's very concerning, because if we decide that our official plan has these parameters, then our developers have to adapt to. We've obviously put a great deal of thought into what we want. People want to slow down the level of development. We've been sort of fast and furious about that, and it's costing us, and mostly it's costing in the health of our watershed and our lands. And because we're at the headwaters of this watershed, we have a responsibility. We're getting clean feed really here, and you know, we're passing that on to Port Sydney and to Bracebridge. So we have a responsibility to make sure that that water is taken care of. And some of the development has really challenged the watershed. So that's sort of where my knowledge comes from. But really, as a mayor, it's that ability really to bring everybody to the table and present strong leadership and make sure that everybody has a voice, and make sure that the meetings are done, you know, unbiased and on balance with what we've been elected to do. I looked up the word politician in the dictionary, and it's not a very gracious description. So I think we have to stop electing politicians, and I think we have to look to electing statespersons and statespeople. And if you look up the definition of that, that's something that I aspire to be. I can make only one promise, and that is that I won't be a politician.
Okay. Okay. So we have a couple minutes. Let me round out then. What would be like the first thing that you'd want to do should you be elected? What's like your number one project?
I want to meet the staff. I mean, I know the staff. They know me, and they've been wonderful. I just want to go in and make sure that they know that I'm going to work at this full time. This will be my job. I want to make sure that they know that their gifts are welcome at the town hall, and that the staff are appreciated. And I also want to make sure that the entire town feels like we're shifting some way to maybe being a little kinder and a little gentler as a municipality, and a little more open to having conversations about how we work together. Certainly, out at Lake of Bays, I've been going to the debates, and because I think it's important across the board to find out what people are really interested in. And really, day-to-day survival is still a real priority for a lot of people in Huntsville, and I don't know that they feel like they're part of what's gone on here in the last however many years. So, and you know what? I'm the first woman to run to be a mayor of this town, which I didn't think about beforehand. I don't think in terms of that. So it'd be interesting to see if Huntsville's ready to elect a woman to be the next mayor.
Okay, well, I thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about this. I know there's going to be more issues to come, but I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for talking about these particular issues.
And can we just mention for a second that there's incredible information, but you have to be on the voters list. Because we're doing electronic voting, people are required to have a PIN. Homeless people are allowed to vote.
Yes.
People who live in trailer parks that are considered tenants are allowed to vote. Spouses of property owners are allowed to vote. What I would really want to see, and what I would feel regardless of the outcome, is if we can bring up the voting levels in Muskoka. That's sort of we've been complacent about that, and my parents were very important that we defend and protect our democracy, and that choosing our mayor is a part of that, choosing any of our councillors. So I hope, regardless of who you vote for, that everybody gets out to vote, and everybody makes sure that everybody else is registered.
For sure. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, and thanks to Cogeco for the opportunity.
And that was Behind the Ballot. Election night is on Monday, October 22nd. And before you head out to the polls, be sure to check that you're on the voters list by going to the Town of Huntsville's website. Also, we will have live coverage of the results and reactions right here on Your TV. For more information on our program, you can always head to our website, yourtv.tv. Thanks for watching.